Last time we heard from the protesters.
The smiles here is masking the anger.
Who've gathered outside asylum hotels all summer.
They're calling you Nazi scum.
I couldn't care less what they call me.
Now we're crossing sides. Separated by metres physically, by miles ideologically. We'll speak to those who feel they are a line of defence between protesters.
Does that risk polarising a situation, inflaming it even more?
And those living in asylum hotels.
I understand people being angry, but they're angry with the wrong people.
We're still in West Yorkshire, but now in Leeds, outside the Britannia Hotel, which houses 200 male asylum seekers. Protests began here in August under the slogan, "Protect our kids."
How many weeks have you been coming down here?
I think this is our 4th week down here, unfortunately. Yeah.
Why, unfortunately?
Well, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to do this, should we? We shouldn't have that much hatred on that side of the road against people on the side of the road.
Why is it important for you personally to come down here? What motivates you?
One, I've got friends that have been refugees, but I'm also, I was also foster carer for a young refugee for 5 years, and he's brought so much to my life and our lives. I want to make sure other people feel the welcome that he gave us and we gave him.
Welcome, Britannia, Britannia refugees. You are welcome here from overseas.
People would say, well, why aren't they claiming asylum in the first country they get to?
Because a lot of people have got roots in this country. They'll have family here. They'll have spoken English. We take in a tiny number of percentage of refugees.
I think one issue you will hear a lot from people on that side is about rates of crime and concerns and fears of sexual assaults.
But that again, that is completely distorted. So I spoke to someone who's someone's been attacked around here. They hadn't. It was a thing they'd heard on social media that was then blown up into. So they're building up this myth about the other. My foster son, for example, helped his fellow students out magnificently. Now this thought would say, he's a bad person. He's a lovely person. He's an absolute. Everybody who's ever met him loves him to bits. So it's a myth. It's a myth, and it's being stirred up to make the situation far more polarised than it needs to be.
There is an undeniable hostility here. We see counter-protesters being filmed by people live streaming what's happening to social media. It all adds to a growing sense of division.
Oh wow, look at this.
Oh, please.
Oh no, I'm fine, thank you.
No,
but
you should.
Are these for both sides?
Yes, we've offered them to both sides. It's for all.
Yeah.
And a sense of peace in the midst of rising tensions.
Does it feel like that at the minute in this community?
I think week to week. So certainly, I was last here 3 weeks ago, and I think it probably the abuse that I've got today is more than I had 3 weeks ago.
What sort of abuse?
Just the verbal abuse that you get. So to that extent, it does feel like the tension has raised slightly higher.
You would normally assume that someone obviously sees that you're wearing a dog colour, you're a man of the church. To have verbal abuse when you are someone who I guess presents as impartial, is that quite shocking?
I don't think wearing a dog collar exempts you from abuse. I think part of it is if you stand alongside those who are being dehumanised, those who are being degraded, those who are regarded as the least, then you can expect to share in some of the same treatment that they get.
It's been a couple of days since the protests, and there's something that Sally Kincaid said to us off camera just after our interview, that she finds these protests scarier than any she's ever been to, and she didn't say that lightly. And I think it speaks not only to the rhetoric, these angry, aggressive insults that are hurled by both sides, to be honest, but also this very real sense that what are broadly peaceful protests so far could very easily turn into something more violent.
Or maybe you should have that one up on your film.
What's that one? I can't believe I still have to protest this. Well, I'm not sure we can put that on the news, but we can give it a go. We've come to Sally's house because we had hoped to meet Hussein, her foster son, who fled to the UK from Iran when he was 15. Sally and her partner Steve saw him through college, driving tests, and after nearly 10 years through getting British citizenship. But Hussein isn't here. We were hoping we might be able to meet him today, but that's not been possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of racism around and kids are scared. That's the tragedy of it. Somebody who was very, very open on camera a few years ago is now worried, and for obvious reasons. You know, the amount of hatred on social media is awful towards refugees, even though he's now got status.
So he did want to speak with us, but he feels frightened too.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the situation. We've got somebody who would love to bits, you know, star student, and so many exciting things in his life, and yet is now not feeling as confident as he was a few months ago being in the UK.
As someone who obviously, you know, you were his foster mum, that must be a very painful position.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We sat and watched the TV the other night where Farage was talking about deporting Afghan women, and I just think, what's going on? What is going on? Why have we got ourselves into this situation where people who desperately want to contribute to modern society are scared to meet people like you?
In fact, many of the counter-protesters we contacted for this report said they didn't want their faces to be on camera. But Ella Mitchell, who we met outside the Britannia, did agree to speak. She's 25, an admin assistant. Last year, she was at huge counter-protest in Rotherham when rioters broke into an asylum hotel and set it on fire. Fast forward to this summer. Why has it been important for you to be there as a counter-protest voice outside the Britannia Hotel?
Well, I think, you know, because I had that experience of seeing what it was like, you know, that they can be stopped and that, like, they don't have a majority opinion. There are some people out there who do want to kind of like offer support and, you know, be welcoming and kind of like turn the far right away, essentially. And it was important for me to kind of be part of that process of doing that again. But there are some people who've never protested before, who are just from the local area, who are angry at what they see is happening. Do they not have a legitimate right to protest as much as you have a legitimate right to be there and counter-protest? I do understand that not every single person, you know, is, you know, kind of like a far-right organiser, and I wouldn't want to claim as such. However, like, if you're stood next to someone who is sea-kyling, right, for example, if you're stood next to someone, you know, who is yelling racist abuse at some people, you know, week in, week out, it does reflect on you. What is the sort of abuse that you've had? Threats of, you know, sexual violence, racial slurs, rape threats, the N-word. You know, it's not going to repeat on news, but yeah, quite literally, like, you deserve to be raped, you N-word bitch. It's quite, I'm not someone, you know, you know, at time of night, I'll walk out, you know, I make it practical purpose. I refuse to be afraid in the city where I live. It was when I was travelling home from the first kind of this round, this summer's protest, and I was walking home. It was dark late at night, and there was people at bus stops, and the first time I thought to myself, yeah, no, I was afraid of the violence that those people could do to me. And they can say, oh, it's like, you know, we're not far right, we're not this, we're not that, we're not racist. It's like, you know, we live in a time of immense misogyny and violence against women. They don't care about those incidents, right? It's simply the only incidents of sexual violence against women that they care about are the ones that they can use to kind of further their own agenda. You know, to kind of stir up more hatred around asylum seekers, around refugees, people who are simply trying to, you know, find a better life.
It's Friday night, and we're back at the Britannia Hotel in the Seacroft area of Leeds. We see Ella escorting groups to the protest point. She says for safety reasons, no one walks there alone. Sally Kincaid's partner, Steve, is there too.
This is just a joke with people opposite trying to blame people from another country for the ills of society, you know, UK. I mean, it's the reason the hospitals are falling apart is not because of migration. In fact, without migration, it'd be even worse. To target them, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. You know, there's a few people here from Seacroft who are horrified to see young kids, people really quite abusive over there, just being fooled by what I would say is mainstream ideas that are clearly false.
Stop the fascist now, now! Can I ask you just about the language that you hear from this side? You know, chants of Nazi scum, fascist scum off our streets. Is that risk? Does that risk polarising a situation, inflaming it even more?
There are people over there that are clearly members of fascist organisations.
But there are some who won't be.
There's some who won't be, no. But by doing those sort of chants, we hope people will go away and think about, well, why are they calling us Nazis? You know, people have stopped the rise of fascism by calling it out for what it is. Ignoring it or being polite about it doesn't win over friends, doesn't win over things.
And the counter-protesters say, as long as there are people opposite, they are staying right here.
Where do you think this is all going to end? How hopeful are you that the message that you're trying to get across here is going to be the one that wins out?
Incredibly hopeful. I think, you know, if you look at historically, you know, one of the chants that we do is who beat the EDL, the National Front, the BNP. You know, there is a long, proud history of anti-racism in this country. You know, we win in the end. You know, and I and everyone else here are willing to wait as long as that takes. So, you know, I wouldn't say it's not something I'm worried about, you know, all really. It's just a matter of how long that takes, and, you know, just sustaining the movement while we wait.
Let's in every refugee!
We've spent weeks speaking to protesters on both sides. We found stark divisions in our communities. But ironically, everyone seems to agree on one thing, that successive and current governments have got policies around illegal migration wrong. There are those who feel ignored, others who believe extreme views have become emboldened. And whilst we meet some trying to find common ground, the majority here aren't looking for consensus. They want their side to win.